Have you ever seen those stunningly colorful images of the moon and thought, there's no way those are real? Because when you look up at the moon, it usually appears as a pale gray orb. So where do all those colors come from? Are they really up there? Hi, I'm Tim from Cosmic Captures, and in this video I'll show you how I captured and edited a visually stunning full moon image. Join me in my backyard on a rare clear evening as I take high-resolution images of the moon. I'll also reveal the secret techniques I use to highlight subtle color differences and intricate details on the lunar surface. And stay tuned till the end, where I'll demonstrate how an already fantastic image can be further enhanced to tell a story. So if you're interested in learning how these colorful moon images are made, then you've come to the right place. Of course it's full of water. Yeah, the weather has been absolutely horrible the last months. Just storm and rain and storm and rain. But today the sun is shining, the weather forecast looks promising, at least for the first half of the night. There's just a tiny little problem. And that is, it's full moon tonight. Okay, let me interrupt here. You might be wondering, why exactly is that considered a problem? Well, let's dive into that for a moment. The brightness of the full moon can be compared to a giant spotlight in the sky. While it's a beautiful sight, this brightness can make it very difficult to photograph deep sky objects like galaxies or nebulae. Additionally, the full moon phase results in flat lighting conditions. And this makes the moon's surface appear less detailed and textured, as all the shadows disappear. And with fewer shadows, more sunlight is reflected back to us, resulting in a brightness increase of over 40% during the full moon phase. However, it's not all drawbacks and challenges, because it also brings unique opportunities. This is the best time to observe and photograph features like the bright ejecta rays, which are easier to see when the moon is fully illuminated. These rays, streaking out from craters, tell stories of ancient impacts and add a layer of drama to the otherwise flat lunar surface. So yeah, let's see. I think this looks fine. Yeah, and one of the last steps to prepare for tonight is to put these weights on. 10 kilos, 5 kilos. And then we put the, what do you call that thing? Toe saver or something like that, so that the weights can't just slide off and smash your toe. Don't smash your toe, please. Don't do it. And then the last thing, until we're ready to image tonight, I'll put the cover on, and then we get to image the full moon. Exciting. Okay, so oh, it's so damp. Everything is wet. It's like it has been rained on, but it's just dew. We definitely need the dew shield. I'm almost afraid that if I take off the cap from the telescope, that it will immediately get wet. It's that damp tonight. So let's see. Actually, I think what I should get is also the hand controller. Normally I don't use it, but tonight, since I'm using a Sony camera at the back end, I don't really need to fire up the computer. I just need to point the scope to the moon, and then the camera does the rest. There it goes. Next thing would be polar alignment, and then we can give it a go. Okay, so there's something bright in the frame already. There we go. Oh, we're almost there. Cool. I think it was a good job with the polar alignment, because the moon really stays super centered in the frame. And once I actually managed to find the lunar rate, took me a while, but now the moon is centered and taking pictures of the moon is super easy. I'm kind of having difficulties to maneuver with these arrows, because it's like it's not really intuitive. If I press right, then it will go left, and if I press down, I'm going up. So it's like, oh, perhaps what I should do, I just turn it around. Oh my god, it works. It's so simple. I can't believe it. I've used that trick before, but I simply forgot that it's that easy. And use the hand pad, use it in whatever orientation works for your brain. And I can do small adjustments to make sure that it's really framed, and then I can use a wireless remote control to take pictures. I'm not sure if you can see that, but the receiver of the wireless remote is completely damp. It's so humid tonight. What you normally do with high resolution lunar photography is you actually take video files, and then you let a software analyze those video files and pick the sharpest frames. But I'm using a different approach here, because if I would take video files with that camera, I would get a quite low resolution, and instead I'm using still images at full resolution of 61 megapixels, and I take many of them. Let me interrupt here again. Why are we taking so many images of the moon, you might ask? The answer lies in a technique called lucky imaging. This method is used in lunar imaging to select and merge only the sharpest frames from multiple rapid shots. And by doing so, we can minimize the blurring caused by the Earth's atmosphere. Think of it this way. It's like taking a group photo. Not everyone is going to be smiling and looking at the camera in every shot. Some may blink or frown, but if you take enough pictures, you can find moments when everyone just looks right. And by selecting the best faces from a multitude of images and combining them, you can create the perfect group photo. And that's exactly what we're doing with the moon. We take hundreds of photos, select the clearest, sharpest moments, and blend them to create a single stunning image. So let me just take a bunch of frames, and I can do bursts of 30 frames or so, and then the buffer is full, and it takes a while to write all those files to the card. And it's an enormous amount of data that we create here. But in the end, I hope it will be worth it. So let's just keep going. Taking pictures. And as I said, for what we want to do in post-processing, you can't take too many pictures. Another thing with the moon is that you really have to be careful with your exposure. There are areas that are so bright that you can't really recover details if we are overexposed. But look at that. There you can clearly see how our atmosphere is wobbling and how unsteady it is. but perhaps it's not too bad. I think there was a question someone asked when I did this video about all the different types of astrophotography. There was someone who was asking, oh, can you do a video about how to do the mineral moon? And yeah, I'm doing it now. Just to clarify, mineral moon is a term used to describe images of the moon that have been enhanced to bring out its natural color variations caused by different mineral content. The blue areas indicate high titanium oxide concentration, while brown and orange areas indicate more iron oxide. White and gray areas reflect more sunlight and suggest a different texture or composition. These color enhancements help us to see the moon's geological diversity in a visually striking way, revealing details that are not visible to the naked eye. And one more thing. While I'm using my fancy astrophotography setup to capture the mineral moon, don't worry. The image processing techniques that I will explain in the video can also be applied to standard photography equipment. Towards the end of the video, I will share a photo that I took with a mirrorless camera and a 600mm telephoto lens mounted on a regular tripod. And I really hope that we will be able to bring out a lot of color on the moon when we do the post-processing. Oh, I really need to get up. My legs start to hurt. It's actually quite pretty, the full moon. Now the clouds are coming. Yeah, you can even see it on the screen of the camera, how the clouds pass the moon. And I'm glad that we got the moon without the clouds. My fingers are really getting cold now, and I think it's time to call it a night. So next step is post-processing, which I will do in a couple of days, I think. All right, let's get started editing the full moon images we collected. In this section of the video, I will show you the individual steps that I take to bring out the most detail and color information while keeping it as short as possible. The first step is to load the raw images into Lightroom and remove unusable frames. Then I crop the unnecessary black sky and perform a basic color correction to make the gray color of the moon as neutral as possible. After that, I end up with 290 images that I can save as a 16-bit TIFF file to a separate directory. Usually I work on Apple computers, but the next steps I have to perform on a Windows machine, since the software I'm about to use only works in that environment. Enter AutoStacker. This is a software that excels at aligning and stacking multiple frames to produce a single high-quality image with enhanced detail and reduced noise. To get started, I import all our images into AutoStacker. Luckily, it can handle various formats, and in our case, this is TIFF. The software analyzes each frame for quality, and this step is crucial as it determines which frames are sharpest and have the least distortion. These frames are then aligned and combined into a single image that shows significantly more detail and reduced noise compared to any single frame. When you look at the final result, you might think, well, that could be more impressive. And I don't blame you, but don't let first appearances fool you. There's a ton of information hidden in that image. But to make all the details more visible, we have to sharpen the image. And for this process, I like to use Registex because it's free and it's excellent for sharpening lunar images. It uses a technique called wavelet sharpening, which allows us to adjust the sharpness and contrast of features of different sizes independently. It's highly effective for bringing out subtle details, making it a favorite choice in the astrophotography community. Now we have a stacked and a sharpened image, which we can further enhance by improving the colors and details. While I use Adobe Photoshop for this, you can apply similar techniques in other layer-based photo editors. To bring out as much color information as possible, I will use the unsharpened image, because I will apply multiple color adjustments to the image, and the less sharpened the image is, the fewer artifacts we will have to deal with. Whenever I can, I prefer to work non-destructively, so I convert the layer into a smart object. This way, I can change the settings at a later stage if needed. I use the camera raw filter to make the first set of color adjustments, starting with the calibration tab. There I increase the saturation of each color channel to 100%. And I also increase the vibrance and the saturation of the image to around 50. Once I have applied these adjustments, I copy the layer and rasterize it. This makes the boosted colors the base saturation in the new image layer. All color sliders return to neutral, and that gives us much more headroom for further color adjustments. And there you have it. This is the secret to mineral moon color editing. Instead of trying to maximize the colors in one layer, we create different layers and gradually increase the color saturation in each of them. We are basically stacking color boost on color boost. And this way we gain much more control. And we simply continue this process of color boosting and editing while keeping an eye on areas that are already highly saturated. In each layer we can use all the different color tools we have available in the software we are using. I personally really like the flexibility and power of the camera raw filter in Photoshop. But there are probably dozens of ways to go about it. Just use whatever works best for you. Okay, once we're happy with the colors in the image, we can start working on the sharpened layer to increase details and contrast in our image. In Photoshop, I use the command place embedded to add the sharpened image as a new layer. And again, I use the camera raw filter for the next adjustments. Remember, this layer is our details and sharpness layer, so I'm only going to work on the contrast and the details of this layer. The effect tools in the camera raw filter are great for this. I can use the texture slider, the clarity slider, and dehaze to create an image to my liking. And once I'm happy, I can apply the settings to the layer. Of course, now the image we see isn't colorful anymore because the layer we've just created sits on top of the previous color boosted layer. But I'm going to change this with the help of the layer blending mode. We only want to use detail and brightness information and apply it to the last color layer. And we can do this with the luminosity blending mode. For me, this step is one of the most exciting moments in the entire mineral moon editing process, because it's the first time I can see both the boosted colors together with increased details and contrast. Wow, just look at this. All these colors and details brought out in an image that started out as a seemingly monochrome image. I can't help it, but this excites me every time. Look at these brown and rust tones, the blue, the purple, olive areas. There are golden patches, and there are even details with greenish, aqua-colored hues. At this stage, I continue with fine-tuning and fixing minor issues until I end up with an image I'm happy with. And here's once more the progression of color, contrast, and detail enhancements I did to the image. And for a comparison, here's an image that I took with a 600mm telephoto lens mounted on a regular tripod. I used exactly the same editing techniques, but of course it does not have the same resolution. But I think it still came out great too. If you want to try this for yourself, head over to my website where I share the data I've used in this video. You will find the link to my website in the video description below. However, before you download the files, there's one more thing I would like to show you. Although I'm happy with this image that showcases the unique geological diversity of the moon, I believe that it can be made even more impactful. Let me explain and show you how. To me, this image is very special because I was fortunate enough to capture it during a brief break in the seemingly endless cloud cover we experienced this winter. It was an incredibly lucky moment to photograph the full moon. But my good fortune didn't stop there. Despite rainy and overcast conditions the next morning, the sky unexpectedly cleared up again in the evening, and I was able to capture the moon amidst shimmering iridescent clouds. Perhaps you've seen this colorful phenomenon before. Iridescent clouds occur when tiny water droplets or ice crystals in the clouds scatter the moonlight. It is similar to a rainbow but occurs on a much smaller scale, resulting in colorful bands or patches in the clouds. They look beautiful, and I thought, why not make these colorful clouds a part of the final image? So I captured some images with an overexposed moon to bring out the colors and details in the clouds. Finally, I composited the mineral moon image into the iridescent cloud image. And this way, I created an image that has a much deeper meaning to me. It tells a story not only about the moon's geology, but also about how this winter's constant cloud cover miraculously opened to let me enjoy astrophotography again. What do you think or feel when you see this image? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. High-resolution lunar photography is just one of many types of astrophotography. And if you'd like to explore other astro adventures that you can experience with a camera, watch this video to see how incredibly diverse astrophotography is. Thank you so much for watching. I wish you clear skies, and I'll see you in the next video.